PIR, like everything and everybody else in the construction industry, is evolving. A few years back, the goal for PIR was basically to save energy and to get better thermal values for buildings. Now, the chatter, the talk, the focus is now on sustainability. And the members of the IMA, like ourselves, are looking to how we as manufacturers can improve the sustainability of our product, but not on its own as a product, but what happens once that product goes into a building. It's buildings that create carbon. It's the people that are in that building that creates carbon. So if we can make those buildings as energy efficient as possible using PIR, but also look at the embodied carbon within the products, and I mean all products within the building, we can improve the sustainability of the building as a whole. Well, the advantage in sustainability terms when it comes to PIR is basically the fact that we can build very, very thin constructions. The PIR has a very high energy performance to thickness ratio. So you take a wall, if we can get down to the required U values for the Future Home Standard, for Passive House, for NZEB, we can actually build the walls much thinner. If the walls are thin, the concrete foundations are thinner, you have less rafter length, you have less concrete tiles. What we're actually doing is reducing the amount of materials in a build. That reduction in materials actually means less embodied carbon. So PIR in itself, we're making improvements in the embodied carbon content of the materials on its own, but it actually saves that embodied carbon throughout the building. We know that PIR has a very good thermal performance. With the research and development that has happened with our parent company Unilin and other PIR manufacturers, we are actually bringing down the embodied carbon content of the material itself. This on its own reduces embodied carbon. But when it goes into a construction such as a wall, and we work in partnership with the manufacturers of other products, whether it be a timber frame, whether it be a steel frame, or traditional concrete block and brick build, we are all working to make that improvement. So when we take the embodied content of all the material, and we're able to measure that within a life cycle analysis for the total building construction, we are aiming to achieve the target set by the likes of REBA within their 2030 carbon challenge, or the LETI standard, or more recently the Future Homes Hub standard for embodied carbon of about 615 kilograms of CO2 equivalent for every square metre of floor. Those targets are achievable now using PIR. With the improvements we're making, within 4 or 5 years, those targets are actually going to be better improved upon. It's an exciting time for our industry as a whole. There's a fantastic as-built project that came to completion in Birmingham at the end of last year. The Project 80 was a collaboration under Midland Heart, built by Tricast Construction and overseen by Birmingham City University, that built 12 houses in Birmingham to meet the Future Home Standard for 2025. It's a massive reduction of 75 or 80% on the CO2 emissions from buildings. This was built substantially with PIR in the walls, floors and roof, and those buildings are now occupied and are being monitored, and it's a demonstrator of how the industry can meet the Future Homes Standard for 2025. But more than that, we've taken the same project and we've looked at the embodied carbon used within that construction, and we're able to demonstrate that the targets for REBA and for LETI, for the Future Homes Hub, can be met with the right choices of materials. It's a very exciting project that is it's a real project that demonstrates what our industry can do to make our industry more sustainable. The industry concentrate on EPDs, environmental performance declarations for products. There is misunderstanding, there is confusion. I think industry working together to try to put conventions on how EPDs are produced, how they are talked about, how are they compared, will happen within the next year or so. The work that the Future Homes Hub is doing is trying to bring manners to what we all talk about when we're talking about EPDs. But EPDs for a single product it's nice to have, but what happens with that EPD once it goes into a total build? All EPDs for all materials need to be measured within the building to ensure that the embodied carbon of the building is reduced. But if you need 2 or 3 times the thickness of that material in a wall that requires more concrete in the foundations, that might require triple glazing instead of double glazing, the materials used are increasing, therefore increasing the embodied carbon. Embodied carbon is about reducing the amount of materials you use in a build, very simply. Sustainability in PIR is not just about EPDs and LCAs in buildings, it's what we do with the product itself when it's on site. So can we, number one, reduce the waste on site? That is by working with the builders to come up with very specific designs and materials arriving on the site, and then looking at take back of the materials off site, which is normally waste. The research and development that has been undertaken by the likes of Unilin and other IMA members is we're confident that we'll be able to recycle a lot of that waste back into our product within the next number of years. We're also looking at reducing the packaging and going over to a more bio-based packaging for our materials once it's delivered to site. We all realise that the elephant in the room about the more sustainable construction sector is refurbishment, and PIR can play its part here because the thinness of the material is very effective in adding to existing buildings. And we have to remember, cutting CO2 is a very important aspect of what PIR does, but no matter where the energy comes from, for the homeowner, whether it's a renewable source or whether it's a fossil fuel source, it still needs to be paid for. So the homeowner needs to have that energy efficiency improved simply to cut bills and improve the environment. And PIR, the IMA members, can help homeowners upgrade their buildings, whether it's walls, floors or roofs, in a very effective way.